Hey guys, Seth here with Team Texas Wild, coming to you with a huge announcement. We are doing a bow giveaway. We are teaming up with Triple Edge Archery in Dayton, Texas, and we are going to give away a Matthews Mission Switch bow. To enter the giveaway, you have to go to the Team Texas Wild Facebook page, find the original banner post for the ad for the giveaway, share it, tag 2 of your hunting buddies, like and follow the Team Texas Wild Facebook page, and just go like and follow Triple Edge Archery Facebook page. And then lastly, go subscribe to the Team Texas Wild YouTube channel. Check out some of those hunts while you're there. And that's it. And this bow is an outstanding bow. It's gonna fit multiple individuals. We selected that just for that purpose. This Matthews bow has a draw weight rating of everywhere from 11 to 70 pounds. And it has a draw length from 18 to 30 inches. So anybody could use this bow. You young youth, young adults, anybody could rig this up for a starter bow, and this bow could take care of everything you need for the upcoming season. We're also going to throw in a gift card to the pro shop to help you get this bow outfitted. We're going to throw you a hat in there as well from Team Texas Wild. So don't worry, and if you're not too local, we will work out the details in getting this bow to you. And we appreciate you guys. This is our way of saying thank you, and a huge thank you to Triple Edge Archery for helping us set this up. So look forward to talking with you guys. Good luck. Enter the giveaway. We're going to run it for about 5 weeks and do the drawing on September 26th on a Friday. So get those entries. If you got any questions, shoot us a message, and we will see you on the next video.
So when you're rattling, what is your rattle tool of choice? Do you use a set of horns? Are you using something synthetic? And then, I mean, you're describing doing it the right way. I mean, what's the right way for you?
Well, I first started out with the old cheap, little rattle bag, I guess you can say, and it was the cloth one. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I wore that thing out till it busted. But I got I got one of the little rattle packs, but I like to use my horns. You cut them brows off, whatever horns you want to use, and it just like I said, it varies. I try to do. I'll even do it early season, just tinkering with them. Not really, going at no, don't go at it hard or anything like that. Just like sparring, but a very light spar. And I've called, of course, young deer, but I've called in some decent deer in there to come check out what's going on.
Interesting. So when you're calling, use real horns. That's what it sounds like, right? Just a
Yeah,
set of horns.
it depends. If it depends on where I'm going. Like I said, I try to travel as light as possible, or not as bulky. So the little rattle pack, the little it's plastic, I
Little
guess you
hand
can
pack.
say. It works. It actually works really good. And I've called in numerous deers with that thing.
Me
But
too.
I love it because it's compact. It doesn't get in the way. My horns, because when I go most of my spots in national forest, it's basically me, my climbing stand, a little fanny pack so I can carry a couple bottles of water, and whatever my calls. And that's all I use. I go as light and as possible to get in there. But
It
so
is a
to answer your question, yeah, majority of the times I'm going to use that little rattle pack just because it's convenient and you know it doesn't get
Fits
in my
right in
way.
that fanny pack.
Well, I just clip it around the belt of that fanny pack. You know what I mean? So
Ah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, you don't crush your little Debbie's. All right.
that's right. That's right.
That's
man. It
about the
is.
size of a little Debbie, that little thing, you know?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. They're convenient for sure,
So when
and
you
they work. It really does. I mean, they work
Oh,
pretty
yes,
good.
sir. Yes, sir. I have one, as a matter of fact, and for the last
I've
three
been
years,
yeah, I've
I
been
am a
using
firm
mine for
believer.
about yeah, I've been using mine for about 3 or 4 years. So
yeah, I love to use horns, just real horns, but I ain't gonna lie, they are a pain in the butt to tote around. Like
they
you
are.
string them together, they come. Then next thing you know, they're flopping around, they're getting caught on stuff, and it's like
Yeah.
I love to have them, but I even had I had the black racks for a while because they stacked a little better, and I would try to strap those on a little better, but definitely gonna have some of some type. But when you're calling, when you're rattling, or like you said in the early season, it may just be more of a tickle. You're just looking to create some interest. But is it different for the rut? And when you call, are you doing more of like a grinding sound, or are you
Oh
like
yeah.
getting after it?
yeah, when early season, I mean, it's very light. If I'm not seeing much movement or action, um, it's going to be very light. And when I say very light, you might just hit just a little bit and wait a couple seconds, just very, I mean, it's very faint almost.
Mm-hmm.
It's just enough to, get their attention or curiosity to come check things out. But, during the rut, yeah, if I see a doe or, a buck chasing doe, I'm going to grunt, whatever, try and get their attention, snort wheeze or whatever I have to do to try and get that buck's attention to focusing on me and like say, hey, I'm here. Come, you better come check on me because I'm gonna fight you. You know what I mean? And majority of the time, they're gonna come investigate and they're gonna come see who's in there on their spot.
Are you using that in combination with a grunt, some
Yeah,
of some
yeah.
sort?
Sometimes, most of the times, if I'm trying to call a deer in, um, yeah, I'll hammer it for a little bit, do a couple grunts, mixed in with it, and I've had success calling deer in. Like I said, come look and stuff. I've had success of killing a deer by doing that. That was the one I was telling you about with where he's hooking his horns on that tree, and then I used that snort wheeze to finish him off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but calling the deer, whatever I use, it's a big part of what's in my bag. Okay, it's I use it a lot, and it works.
When you see deer responding to it when they come in, kind of what's their demeanor? Do they come kind of creeping in? Have you had them rush in on you, or and do they stop us like a distance out? Like what's maybe the most type of common behavior you usually see them when they respond?
I mean, your younger deer, especially bucks. I'll just play with them sometimes to see what see what they do or how they react to my calls. And majority of the time they'll stare at you for a long time. Sometimes they'll just, okay, I'm not coming to see what that is. I'm leaving. Your mature bucks, they're going to come in cautiously. You know what I mean? They're going to be coming in slowly looking, just like that giant that I seen. He was smart enough to know that after I turned and blew that call to my left, that he looked over there and he couldn't see another deer, so he wasn't going to commit. I mean, he was smart, and that's the reason why he was as big as he was. He wasn't going to just walk in there. A younger buck, yeah, he'd probably come right over there to me, but he wasn't because he knew that he could see another deer, so he wasn't going to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So is are you watching? Are you looking further out? I mean, you're looking like like you're expecting a more mature deer to just be more of circling, creeping. You might catch his tines. Like, are you? I mean, visually, you're just looking for different cues. You're not expecting them to just come barreling in on you. It sounds like
Yeah, no,
so.
I mean, majority of my areas, it's I know pretty much where they're coming from. Where they're going to be bedding, that type of thing. And so I generally, especially with bow season, I set up, to where I can see, be closer where I can see further than where I can when I set up for gun hunting. But I know where majority of the trails and stuff are, and bow season, I might catch a glimpse of a good deer, because it's most of the spots is kind of thick where I hunt, and I've called them in or called them back just so I can look at them. You know what I mean? But most of the time, the mature deer that early in the season, they're not going to mess with you anyway. They're going to keep cruising, or they're going, A to B that time of year.
So I've heard you describe some of your setups. I want to shift gears a little bit to kind of like habitat and terrain. Um, what type of areas do you usually find yourself in? Are they more heavy terrain based, or are they like more heavy habitat based? And if so, how would you describe that habitat as far as like from the underbrush up and mature woods or anything like that?
I mean, I tend to go for, you know, um, I look for the thickets, I guess you can say. I look for it transitions into just say apron flats or whatever, wherever the transition spots are. Especially if I've never been there. Like I said, I'll find the road lines and that kind of thing. But I mean, man, I hunt everything from a bottom where you can stand up and hit your head on tree limbs, and you literally hunt from your knees, or to a wide open, to an apron flat, to pine thicket, you name it. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's just me trying to, you know, do what I need to do to set up for that particular spot, whatever terrain it is. You know what I mean?
So do you
Yeah,
find
because I feel the
yourself?
same way. I get what you're saying. I mean, 100%. I don't hunt anything the same, from bottoms to
Yeah,
ridge tops, pine thickets to
yeah.
clear cuts to creek bottoms to oak flats to wide open
That's
pine. I mean, I
yeah.
feel
I
like
mean,
some of these
that's what I was
forests
saying.
are.
It's like, you know, I say I carry that climate stand everywhere, and I really do. Except for, of course, the spots that I know that I'm not going to use it. But if it's a newer area, that climate stand, it rides my back, you know, because I never know, you know, I never know where I'm going. And then when I get in there, I'm like, man, I don't want to get in there and be like, damn, I wish I had my climate stand. You know, I always take it just in case. And if I can't use it, you know, I'll stretch that seat out and sit on the ground somewhere, you know, to be comfortable. But it goes everywhere I go, no matter what, just in case. You know what I mean?
Do you find yourself around any types of dramatic elevation changes? I mean, I know if you're hunting around creeks, you're gonna have some dips and bottoms, but or is it just kind of the typical stuff? And do you use that in any way?
Yeah. I mean, I hunt some spots with, you know, has pretty good elevation changes with your creeks and your big draws and stuff like that. And um, typically, like most of those, it's going to funnel down to say at some point into, you know, some kind of little transition there where it's thick. It goes into thick, and I love hunting those edges of that because deer love to use them high banks like that to travel. They like to get down low, you know, on the side of them creeks, and you know, because they're pretty well hidden unless you're on top of that creek. But they use those, believe it or not, to travel. And so I'll try to set up on them a lot.
Do
Well,
you,
that makes sense, Seth, with that spot I shared with you with them big bucks in there.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my wife can tell you one of the first times she's ever went hunting with me. Um, we were sitting there on the ground one morning up against a tree and got there before daylight, and it's the first time she ever been with me. And I told her to watch, you know, this way. I'm gonna watch this way, and I look over after daylight. She's asleep, and I hear something, and you know, it wasn't big elevation. This buck, and it was a good buck. He was probably 10 yards from me. Believe it or not, he was actually in the creek bed. It was kind of dry, but he was walking that creek bed, and he come up out of that creek bed 10 yards from me and seen me and bolted.
Oh man,
So
Yeah.
he was
did
down in the
wife wake
lowest.
up from?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. They use that to their advantage. I mean, they're gonna, you know, that's just how they are. They're trying to survive. You know what I mean? And that's what they do.
Do you if I'm just remembering a deer. I know I've told Rudy about it a couple of times. Who really surprised me. He probably even to this day he would have been probably my biggest deer ever, bow or gun. I was in a real dramatic SMZ. I mean, I was up on the bank side of it, and I mean, the deer was probably 6 yards from me, but he was probably 20 foot below me. That's how steep it was, and he was in the
Yeah.
very bottom. I mean, when
Mm-hmm.
he was in there, if I was standing in there, I'm not saying I could have stood in the middle and touched both sides, but it was probably that's pretty steep. I mean, that's pretty. It wasn't that much. It wasn't that much, but and where he was at, the path was probably 4 foot wide, and the banks went up, um, maybe 15 foot wide, but he was just dead in the center in the bottom walking,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. No, I believe it.
and he stayed down in there for about 30 more yards, and then he just went up one of the little oxbows, that because I had to look over the bank like to see him down in there, and I just couldn't believe he was down that low. Because
Yeah.
I always thought like maybe they would feel uncomfortable because they can't see up and out. They'd want to be where they maybe at least eye level with the with the bank or whatever's just beyond it. But I guess they'll do that in spurts maybe. But he was all the way down. He was all the way
Yeah.
down the bottom.
That's like the first I told you about the first deer I ever shot when I was a little boy. Me and my dad was up on something like that. I mean, it was probably a 20-foot drop to where that deer was standing on the other side of that creek. You know, it was like a 20-foot wall,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I mean they use that to travel or whatever. I mean, it keeps them concealed. And I mean, I hunt a lot of that kind of stuff because they use that stuff.
Yeah. Do
Well,
you?
there's always going to be somewhere they use in a bottom or a creek. I can promise
Oh
you
yeah,
that. It's a big reason
yeah.
why. Like when I scout, I specifically want to go to the creek in general and find as many crossing points and find that
Oh yeah,
major
yeah.
crossing point. But how many times have you seen between a couple of those crossing points one set of tracks going one way? You
Yep.
know, and I feel like, and now that you're saying it, and I've seen just bucks. It's not does running down them creeks all the time. You can tell when it's a group of does,
Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
right? It's one set of tracks, one
Yep.
way. And I guess he's what thermal hubbing them scent trails there, Seth. Is that what you would think he's doing?
I mean, it's
Kind of catch any of those senses down in that creek bottom because we know they pull up in there. I mean, I do. I know that you coon hunt. You know what happens with them creek bottoms sometimes. They get a scent pulled down in there real thick, and it's hard for them to get out and find out where that coon went or that where that deer went. For me, whenever they're wounded, so
yeah. I mean, I feel like if that's where they're experiencing the most collection of scent, that's where they would be. You know, if it's super shaded or if it's real early or it's late when that thermal takes over, it would make sense. But sometimes they do stuff that don't make sense either. But I think I have been surprised at how often they will walk in or with the creek rather than just crossing it back and forth because we always talk about crossings, which I've never really had a whole lot of success on for whatever reason. Maybe in relation to them, like they lead me somewhere off of it, but I've never shot a deer that's like I don't think that's like I've shot him after he crossed a creek, or went through a crossing like that. It's always somewhere. He maybe across them somewhere, and he comes around the corner.
Yeah.
But so do you
I got a
find?
question.
Go ahead, man.
How all these years hunting public land? I mean, can you explain any? You got any crazy hunter run-in stories? Any public issue stories? I mean, other than maybe a stolen camera or just confrontations or maybe even a private landowner or how do you try to avoid people? And is there anything you do in specific whenever you find a spot? Have you done anything to keep people out of the spot before?
I wouldn't say anything confrontational. I mean, like I said, I'm so far in there. I might see somebody here and there. I think last year, one of my spots, I think I seen three people, which kind of surprised me because it's pretty good ways in there. But I think a lot of these hunt shows have something to do with that. But um, not so much as confrontational, but uh, I mean, I've walked up on a shed hunting one year. I walked up on a grow site, a marijuana grow site. Um,
All right, I need to. Okay.
yeah, it was already gone, but where I was, all I had was 8 shots on me on my pistol. That was just for snakes. But I walked up into this little pine thicket, and I noticed all these holes everywhere, and I'm just like, this is weird, like it didn't click at me at all. But I come out of that pine thicket and hit the creek that it was at, and I seen these two huge, black 55-gallon trash bags that had the creek dammed up, and I'm like, well, still didn't click, and finally I come out of that creek bank, and there was a big square hole with a hose running up that creek, and
Wow.
then I seen the camp, I seen the tent, the collapsed tent, pots hanging in the tree, and that's when it hit me. I was like, oh God, it sent chills up my spine, and
Yeah.
I called the old game warden, and he said, "Oh man," he said, "they busted that a couple weeks ago." He said, "A coon hunter, come up on it, and whoever was there, ran that night. I guess that coon hunter come through there, but I think
Yeah,
that's
the
it was
high
like,
raccoons are down there passed out and
oh
eating
yeah,
coon
I
dog
think he said
days.
there was. I want to say he said there was like 3,500 plants they removed.
Golly.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's one of my crazy stories, but
That's crazy, man. That's pretty good one. I like it.
yeah, it definitely made my hair stand up on the back of my neck.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Scary.
Yeah, yeah, because
Definitely.
you don't know if the people are brave enough to go to grow that. Which I'm not saying I'm against anything, but to do it like they were doing it, no telling what they would do to you if they
Yeah,
caught you.
you don't know how desperate they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, you don't know how they're gonna react. So, and you're just
Yeah.
out there trying to enjoy the woods. But
Yeah. I mean, they might do something stupid to protect it, you know?
oh yeah. And as
Mhm.
far as I guess trying to keep people out, I mean, I really don't try to keep people out. I mean, it's it's public land. Whatever if they want to hunt where I'm hunting, that's fine. I don't care. Is it irritating? Yeah, for sure. If you put in the time and effort and all that, and some of the spots I've been to, it's kind of like, man, how do these people know the spots in here? I mean, I know you got your apps and all that, and you can go scouting and all that good mess, but sometimes it's almost like, well, these people, are you watching where I'm going? That type deal. But and it may not be, but it always crosses your mind. Um,
Mhm.
there was one good spot I was hunting. Actually, when I told you about with my wife who was with me, that spot was nobody's gonna find that spot. Um, but they come in there and clear cut some of the woods,
Mm.
and they have made a logging road basically 200 yards from where I'm hunting. So I didn't even
Oh
really hunt.
no.
Yeah, I didn't even hunt that spot last year because people they're gonna be people and they're gonna drive. They're gonna do their illegal crap. I try to do everything the right way. If I can't walk to it, I'm not going. I've seen tons of people coming in with little side by sides, four wheelers, whatever. That's them. Um, but I'm not. I'm not going to do that. Um, Number one, I can't afford the ticket. You know what I mean? So, uh, and it's just being fair to other hunters. I mean, you drive in there and you drive up on somebody, you just ruin their hunt. It could be an old man that is hunting off of a little access trail that can't go 100 yards off the road, and you drive in there in a vehicle. You just ruin that man's day. You know.
Mm.
Um, but no, I don't care about trying to keep somebody out. Yeah, it's irritating. I mean, I will say I have used a vest here a time or two to deter folks. When you see orange in the woods, you typically go the other way. At least I do. Um, but no, it's public land. You're free to hunt it just like I am.
So it
I
sounds
like it.
like you're not one to hunt around any kind of people pressure or try to use that pressure to your advantage. You're not one of those type of strategists that deep. If there's people around, you're just going the other way. Oh, or you're just hunting in places people aren't in to begin with. That's kind of your
Yeah, no, I'm like a hermit. I try to find, like I said, them spots that are either so hairy to get into or so far away that nobody else is going to bat an eye. I mean,
yep.
I don't want nobody around me. Like I said, I've got spots off of waterways that I use that you couldn't find me if you tried to. I guess you can say.
I love it. That's one of my basic principles that I won't ever give up. I don't think
Hey,
trying to buy into hunting around pressure and using people. I just don't want to do it. I just
hey,
don't
you
care.
you should have seen this dude's text. You could see the heartbreak whenever he sent a picture of a couple hunters yesterday cutting through a spot that he scouted. You should have
Yep.
seen. I could just feel the heartbreak through the text.
Yep.
But my,
Yep.
He's like,
I'm
"Oh no!" And I
I'm
was like, "Oh
I'm
man."
not ready to give that spot up yet because what I'm going to count on is I know that
They
spot
didn't
better than
find
they.
what you did.
Well, I know that spot better than they do, and I'm going to hunt it at the right time. I
Well,
hope, but
well, you're lucky they don't take your stuff because like I said, that's why I don't use cameras too much because I've had one cheap camera stolen. That was one enough for me.
They probably couldn't reach it. This dude's 10 foot tall,
they
Oh
couldn't
yeah,
man.
they
yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
reach that one. It was it's on a tree that's dang near in the creek, and it's like 12 foot high, and it's so steep there it looks straight over onto the bank about 20 yards away, and that's the closest you can get to it even when you're walking. It's like super
Yeah.
really dramatic, but it's so up high, and that's why it's kind of funny
That's
because
pretty cool.
it'll never get seen anyway. But yeah, it was a little bit disappointing, and the funny thing is that an older gentleman got me on his camera circle or coming from the other side of the piece where he hunts it, and he was like he found out who I was. First time ever somebody posted me on Facebook because he He didn't know who I was. He was looking for me. He's like, I've been hunting here for 20 years and I ain't never seen nobody back there. I was like, sweet, it's a good spot, bro. But I was like 300 or 400. I ended up, like 350 yards down from him. I was like, oh, you're good. I said, but we exchanged, kind of information and like, hey, if you're ever in there, you need anything, and
Yeah.
we'll keep it mutual. I don't want to hunt where he's hunting anyway, but
Oh yeah. I've got spots like that with, older men that are, I know one old man, he's from Central Texas. He comes here every year and he's probably in his 70s now. And he used to hunt back, way deep where I did. He's telling me all these stories and he can't make it that far no more. And like you're saying, I always tell him, I'll be here. If you see my truck, this is what I drive. You know what I drive. Just let me know. I'll come help you.
yeah, that's awesome.
And most of
Have
these
you ever
spots
killed
that
a deer on the river? Have you ever killed a river buck?
oh yeah, I did last year. And funny story behind that is I didn't take my cart with me. I didn't put it in my boat, and I was like, well, it ain't gonna be that far of a drag, and it's further than me being 40 years old now, old and fat. It's a lot rougher than it was back when I was 20. Um, but funny thing with that is, how social media is. I posted that deer, of it in my boat, and of course, there's always that one guy. He said something like, "Oh, shining from the river, I see." So of course, I had to post a picture of the deer, right after I shot him. It's still daylight.
That's the problem. I don't think that, I have this conversation at least once a month with Seth. We have nothing to prove to nobody, and nobody has
No,
nothing to prove to us. And
no.
at the end of the day, nobody can just be happy for somebody else and their success. And all I want to see is success. And I think it just it irks the hell out of me, that people can't post something and then automatically, oh, you shot that over a bait pile on public land? You shot it at night while you were walking out, or in your situation because you are using some boat access. Oh, you're shotting them from the river, and everyone knows that deer cross rivers, and especially during the rut, they're chasing girls all over the place. And maybe one day they're on this side of the river, and the next day they're over there, and they do it at night. They cross at night because it's safer at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
it's always
at the end
something.
of
It
the
seems like.
day, I don't think that, it's fair to you or anybody else out there who gets questioned immediately for an animal they have harvested. You know,
Oh, it's a lot to do with social
jealousy.
media, jealousy, social media nowadays. All these you know big time hunting shows that have no clue. I mean, they're not doing it the right way anyway, but um, they don't put in the time and effort. But like I said, mostly it's jealousy. And I mean, I've got one guy, a friend of mine. He's the only person that knows to all these spots that I go to. I've taken him to every one of them. My top spots that I trust with, and he can tell you, you know, he's seen the what I go through. He knows what I go through. He's been there when I've killed deer. And like you said, it's just people that are being jealous. They don't put in the time or effort,
Hmm.
and they're wondering why. Like, well, why don't I kill a deer? It's because you don't take the time. You don't have the want to. If you truly enjoyed it and had a passion for it, and that's what you want to do, like I do, you could do it. Anybody could do it.
Hmm.
I mean, you just got to have the want to go get out there and do it. It's just something that's what I live for. I guess you can say that's my only hobby. I guess you can say besides family and my kids and all that with fall season and all that good mess. But that outside of that, that's my only thing I do. You know, so I have a lot of passion for it, and I put a lot of my time and effort and money, all that into it.
Yeah, I like to
It's
describe it
not just
as.
a hobby anymore. Like you said, passion. It's a passion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like to describe it as like, don't which and that's okay. Like you're saying, the people who hunt different or they're not as intense about it for whatever reason. That's okay, but just don't compare your type of hunting and your 5 sets a year and you're mad 'cause you didn't get anything when this guy sat 28 times, 35 times, and you're coming at him and with some sort of negative way. I compare it like going to the gym. Uh,
Hey,
you can tell
you need to
people,
go.
well, you can tell people what to do, where to go, and how to hunt. And I offer up advice. I'm not saying it's good advice to people in that sense. A lot of the times, because I know in the end they're probably still not going to do it. you know,
No.
because they're going to get out there and it's going to be absolutely miserable. It's just like, I can tell you how to go train, eat right, follow this lifestyle. Doesn't mean they're going to go do it. And that's okay.
No.
But just don't come back and because I hate to go this route and I don't want to make anybody feel bad about it, but because for whatever reason you decided it wasn't for you, don't make it seem like I must be doing something wrong,
Mm.
Listen, because if I'm going to struggle climbing that tree this year, because I don't watch what I eat and I don't work out every day like Seth does. So my little fat ass is going to struggle. I promise you, I'll be breaking a
Yeah.
sweat, sounding like a whole bunch of racket getting up there.
Yeah.
While Mr. 7 foot over here is like the praying mantis climbing the tree, very silent and
So,
attacking, you know?
Listen, that's a lot of body to
well, I
hide in
have
a tree.
I do criticize those people that I guess you can say I'll say criticize because like I said, I hunt best of both worlds. I have the cameras, the feeders, and all that private land that I hunt. But like I said, majority of my hunting is public land. I mean, it's 95% of the year it's public land, and so when
Just
I say things like babysitting a feeder, to me, hey, that's all I'm doing. I mean, I know what's coming in there. Of course, you may not see every deer during the rut come on your camera and all that, but
Mhm.
I know what does. I know all the does that come through there. I mean, I know the deer, and it's just not as challenging for me, and it's just not. I guess I don't enjoy it as much. I guess you can say like I don't mind taking my kids so they can see deer and that kind of thing. But as far as hunting them deer, like I'd much rather go to public land and hunt the deer. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, and go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just for some perspective, how many hunts do you think you put in last year? Sits or
Oh,
days, however you want to describe it.
shoot, man, I don't know. I know it's 72 miles under my feet, so um, most of my spots is going to be at least a mile and a half in one way. So if that can help you out, so
I mean, and during season, when season rolls in, I mean, you're in the stand a couple times a week at least.
oh yeah, fortunate I got I can take off quite a bit at my job, and I save a lot of my time for this time of year, and they all know that. And I mean, it's I could be early season. I typically don't take off that much, like I said, the first couple weeks, but I may open a weekend of bow season. I usually go from that Saturday to Monday. Um, but typically I'll lay off until about the second week, then I'll start hitting hard. I may be a Friday to a Monday, or I may leave work early. I mean, it's hit or miss. I mean, it just depends on, I guess, if I get that feeling or the change in the weather, what the wind's doing mainly. Just simple things like that affects when I'm going to take off, or if I'm going to leave work really quick, to go get in a tree somewhere. So
Do you get excited about hunting any sort of certain days of the week, or is it just kind of conditions based? Some people are like, man, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, or Thursdays, Fridays, anything outside of the weekend. Do you have any kind of thoughts around that?
I mean, yeah, I see the theory behind it, or I see what people are talking about, less pressure, during the week, you know. Um, but I also believe that may be true for the spots that are, you know, easily accessible, or they're, 100 yards off the road that, or they're right off some kind of little access trail. Yeah, I believe that for that. But on the spots that are hard to get to and stuff, no, I don't see that. I think it's playing the wind right, because it's not going to be pressured anyway. Most of the spots that I go to, I haven't really seen any pressure, and I think that's why I have a lot of success, because I play those conditions to my favor. And like I said, I get away from people. I look for them spots that are hard to get to. Um, and I've used them for the past, like I said, since I'm in this one area that I'm in, at least for 20 years. I mean, even back where I grew up, I still use the same spots I used my dad hunted. And till this day, I don't see very much pressure or people in there.
Mm-hmm. All right, I know we're getting a little bit late on time, but so I'm gonna zig and zag on a couple of questions here, so it's gonna seem random. So I apologize, and to anybody who's listening, but I want to circle all the way back to scrapes. Could be a short conversation, could not. Some people, live and die by scrape. Everybody, but people love finding a good scrape, right? So, what do you? What is a scrape for you? Do you pay attention to them at all, or how would you use them? I mean, they're just
I
basically
do.
like a rub.
I do and I don't. It just depends on if they're near the area where I'm at. Like I don't really go just seeking them out. Like I said, because I've these spots that I frequently hunt. I've had such success with them. I mean, it's I mean, I hunt like I said all over the place. I mean, yeah, I'll sometimes hunt over a scrape if it's fresh or that type of thing, depending on what time of year it is. Um, but I mean, to be honest, I really haven't noticed them. I've noticed one deer about 3 years ago come and work a scrape. A young buck, and I didn't even know the scrape was there. But I typically, I just look for them just for different sign. Like I said, for you know, if it's by a trail or if it's that type thing. But I really don't typically hunt over them. If I do, it's going to be a little ways away. I'm not going to sit right up on it, um, just so I can use that calling aspect too. Because I don't know. I've seen a time or two I have set close by and they'll circle it. The deer are going to come straight to that scrape most of the time. They're going to circle to get the wind of that scrape before they come to it. Usually, you know what I
Hmm.
mean. And if you're sitting behind that scrape, most 9 times out of 10, they're going to circle right behind you and bust you and get out of there. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, they're checking it downwind, and
Yeah.
there's always going to be a buffer from the
Yep.
scrape of
Yep.
maybe 75 yards or so. Who knows?
Yep.
You know.
I think a good way to describe it, if I may, for you, is that you're there because the deer are there, and the scrape's there because the deer are there too. And it just happened. You just happen to be there because they're both there, but you're not. You're looking for a deer first. You're not finding a scrape first, and then that's not
Rub
part
line.
of part
You
of
like
what
that
you're.
rub?
Yeah. I love the rub lines, but like I said, like majority of my spots, man, I've just hunted them so long. I know, everywhere around, like I said, within at least just that quarter mile around my main tree, just for say that I use. But I know them areas so well. I know where the deer, what trail they're using or where they're coming from. You know what I mean? So it's just been consistency. Sticking with the same spot, same plan. Um, if it ain't working for me, I may move a little bit. To another tree in that area just to check what's going on. But it's just the consistency of hunting the same areas, same spots. Like I said, I may you can ask my buddy. I can be in West Texas one morning, East Texas that evening. I mean, it just depends. I mean, that's just what I do.
So let me ask you
Chasing deer
this:
every turn.
you talk
Oh
about
yeah.
obviously your historical knowledge on these areas you've been hunting is huge, and that's what you lean into, rightfully so, at this point. So these areas that are so good for so long, um, why? What is it about them that makes it good? Is it just something about them that holds the deer, and also what have you seen? What causes those areas to change the most, if so?
Man, I guess it's just the habitat or whatever trees is producing acorns time year after year depends on the water amount each year. Logging, that type thing. It changes year to year. I mean, a lot of places that I hunt where I'm from, they started, doing a lot of drilling over there. So they've decimated some of them beautiful woods over there.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, I don't know if nothing changes throughout the year for them deer, then they're typically going to hang around. That's where they're going to, breed and raise their babies. So,
Gotcha. And so when you get like a major change on the landscape like that, are you just trying to shift with them like to a certain degree, or are you just kind of bailing out and like maybe come back in a couple years or something? Or
no, yeah, I'm totally bailing because, that, like I told you, this past season, um, the first morning I went there and during bow season, I'm typically in the stand at least almost an hour before daylight. I'm up a tree, waiting. Um, and about 30 minutes before daylight, I hear a diesel engine crank up. And I'm like, okay, I didn't know what it was. And then I hear a chainsaw, and that chainsaw kept getting closer and closer as the day, morning progressed. And like I said, they logged all the way in there about 200 yards from where I was. And that's one of them spots that was, mile and a half off the road, but they made it easily accessible for, all these people to just drive in there. And I know they do. I mean, I see it every year, but so I didn't even go back. It's not worth my time.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be so much pressure in there now that, hey, y'all have at it. I'll be back when it grows up. You know what I mean? And it's sad because that's one of my, one of the spots that I've had a lot of success throughout the years with. But yeah, if something like that happens, I'm out. Let them have it. I'll come back.
I can be the first one to tell you, don't write it off too quick, bud, because I experienced something very similar and had some of the biggest deer. A lot of people got hung up in the first part of it. Nobody was really willing to get way back there in the back where it dropped into that creek. For me, at least, I'm not saying in your city, but it's far. It's a
Yeah.
long walk. It ain't easy. It's over a mile and a half. In fact, I took Seth down in there. But it's a long walk to the good stuff, and there's a lot of okay stuff up close. But I think people think they'll get right there and jack up and look over that clear cut and watch the edges of those tree lines as best they can. So, but
Well, see, the thing is with that one spot I'm talking about, it's from the corner that where they stopped cutting to where I was, jacking up a tree. It was maybe 80 yards, but it's not only that. It's just the I know there's a lot of pressure in there. I mean, I went back down that road, and I mean that trail is beat out from people, just driving in there, and
hate to hear it. That sucks.
yeah, it does. I mean, I'll probably go check it out this year, but um, that's just part of it. I mean, some people they're gonna do that, and that's on them, whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna do that, whatever. But I think the majority of that would stop if these game wardens or whatever forest rangers would impose fines big enough to keep these people from doing it. Because if you just slap them with $100, $300 ticket, hey, they're gonna pay that all day, so they ain't gonna walk.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So
I want to ask you real quick, the best we can, um, a little bit about late season. Like I said, you being kind of a multifaceted hunter, um, you're not afraid to tackle any part of the season. It's not like when the rut's over, you're pretty much, well, I'm not getting a buck this year. If I haven't shot one by November 28th or whatever.
yeah.
What date comes and goes to where you kind of consider you're in late season, and then also, do you have an example of a hunt where you were successful late season and kind of what that deer was doing?
Uh, Probably the late season for me is gonna be at least a week or two after Thanksgiving.
Okay, so
Um,
maybe December 10th or something, right? I mean,
yeah, maybe early to mid December, I guess. But
okay,
I've shot two deer, super late, like end of season. The biggest one I shot, he was December 27th, I believe. Um, but he was run down. Like I told you, I seen him on camera early bow season. Never seen him again until Christmas morning. And he came in. He started, coming, making a pattern. And I told my wife, I said, no, it was the day before Christmas that I had him because the next morning was Christmas, and I come home that evening. I said, hey, look, I want to go hunting tomorrow morning. She said, no, you ain't. It's Christmas. I said, I got this deer. He's on a pattern right now. Of course, I didn't get to go, so I was all upset like a little kid. But um,
And they
I
show
finally I
up.
went back, and that's when I didn't even have the cell camera. I had the card. Check your card.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, I forgot my little camera to check my card, and I hunted
Oh.
that. I got up at 4 that morning, took my kids to my parents. Almost 40 minutes away. Dropped them off 4 in the morning, and I checked my camera. Or I went back to my truck, had to get my camera, go back in there, check the card, and I was like, if that deer didn't come in here yesterday evening, I'm going home. I'm going to get the kids, going home. Well, luckily I went and checked and got my camera because he came in there that evening, and so I went back out to my truck, took a break, called my mother, said, hey, I'll be over there, after dark, and sure enough, about right at 5:10 in the evening, he steps out, come same old pattern, and dropped him right there. So
so
I know late season, like for me, um, that's the majority when I will go, like I said, quote unquote, babysit a deer feeder because if I have a certain buck, that I'm actually going to take, I know he's going to be in there, and I know that what he's going to do at the end of the year if he ain't been shot, he's going to come right back to that food. Um, as far as public land, it's a grind, man. I go to where I know their food sources are, and I'll typically start hunting them, or not going, right up to where I've been going, trying to catch them on their trails, going to their food sources, or where I think their food sources where they're using to try and cut them off at least anyway.
So if I heard you right, you said you had seen or known of that deer from very early in bow season. Was in that same spot,
Oh yeah,
and
that's
and
yeah. He had them on camera.
and he.
Um, I think on actually Halloween. I remember that. Yeah, it was Halloween because I was going to go hunting then, but I had couldn't because I had to take the kiddos Halloween trick or treating. And when I checked my camera, sure enough, he came in on Halloween, and that was the last picture I got until December 24th, I think it was, and I shot him on the 27th.
So that's pretty interesting. He obviously went and did his thing there for a while, but ultimately ended up coming back. So do you feel like he was kind of in his core area? Like, I mean, he was basically in his bedding area.
Oh yeah, because I really I think I'm pretty sure that was the same deer I had from the year prior, and he looks very similar from some of the older pictures I had anyway. But yeah, he was definitely in that area. I think that the rut took off and he just disappeared chasing or whatever. And luckily, he avoided everybody but me. So I got him there at the end, won that game anyway.
So I want to ask you, being late season, Leafs are off, especially there after Christmas, more than likely. I mean, what was he in? What type of habitat structure was he in?
Oh, it just hardwoods. Drops off to a creek bottom. That's majority of the spot where he was staying at, and there's a little pine thicket to where I think he beds up at anyway. But the majority of that around there is all like little hardwood bottom.
So this pine thicket, was it real mature or was it like mid range,
No,
10 or
it's
15
about
years?
it's
Or?
about mid. It's really thick though.
Yeah. Like when you say thick, is it too thick for you to go in? Like you can't hunt it, basically? You just got to stay on the
You
edge?
you yeah, you're gonna be a lot, crawling and ducking and that type thing. You know what I mean?
Like
So it's
literally.
real. Yeah, it's a real low canopy. I mean, it's a good spot for for them to bed up, be concealed or feel safe anyway.
Got you. Okay. What was there a lot of like Yopon at the ground level, like real thick, or was it a little bit looser type of, stem count stuff, or was it like
No,
was
it's
it
like I said,
thick? Was it thick up high, or was it just thick kind of down low? And it had.
no, it was pretty much open low. I mean, like I said, in the hardwood, the bottoms you got still stuff there that hadn't died off, but as far as the pine thicket, it's just pine needles basically. I mean, there's nothing really to browse on in there besides for them to bed up. But I mean, of course, then you go to the higher end, and yeah, you're going to have more stuff to browse by. But majority of his time was spent, down there in that bottom, from what I've seen anyway.
You talking about
Mm.
the time spent? He was like bedding there, or he was just that's where he was going. That was his.
And
Yeah,
living
that
in
was that was his uh from that pine thicket bedding up. I'm assuming to going to wherever he was feeding at over there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So
And do you find much like, if you were, to have to kind of hoof it out late season, are do you usually find them feeding on anything specific, or is there like late acorns laying around? Is it like, just like some vegetation browse, anything like that you've noticed, or just whatever's
yeah, it's
left?
it's it whatever's left as far as the acorn crop. I mean, if is anything left, that hadn't rotted or whatever. But yeah, I mean, there's still stuff they can browse by. I don't know what the little bush is called with the little berries, but
beauty berries. I
yeah.
was
So
I was
I
gonna
got
tell you, man. I was like, I think these pine thickets have a lot of that beauty berry,
yeah.
and that's their
I see
main
them. Yeah,
staple.
yeah. I see them browsing that a lot. Or whatever's just left over. I mean,
Yeah, I've
And
watched
that's one
them.
thing that is left over that time of year. Some beauty
oh yeah,
berries.
yeah.
Yeah, I've watched a buck walk through a little dry bottom with like nothing left. Everything's dead, but there was one twig sticking up about 3 foot, and it had one green leaf left on it. He just walked by it and pulled it off, and he just kept going. It was just the only thing hanging there, and and I was like, it was just interesting to see. But like you said, that's what makes those pine thickets so unique. Unique. People talk about them and they kind of generalize them, but man, you've got some that are like those beautyberry plantation types.
Oh yeah,
There's not a lot
yeah.
else in there. And those, they just look barren when those things die off. But then you got pine thickets that are just greenbrier and like buckthorn and like mixture of big vine, dead. It's just like there's a lot of different types of pine thickets. It's like, and then the age makes a big difference on that. But you could talk about that for days. So it's just interesting. I haven't had a lot of success at all. Like come late season, I'm usually like scouting for the next year, like when doing that. But and which has paid off before. I got on a decent buck one, and I saw one. He was an older buck. I just couldn't shoot him because it wasn't legal, thanks to the 13-inch rule several years ago.
Yeah,
But I went back to that area the next year and killed a buck like several weeks earlier. But um, finding them late season is just, oh man, it's a
it's rough.
daunting
It's
task, man. I
yeah,
mean,
like
it's
I said after Thanksgiving, after about like I said early December mid, it gets really tough. It's a grind from then on out for sure.
Yeah, it really is. I always hope that I'm just finding like a late hot doe or something somewhere, basically,
Oh
because
yeah, yeah, yep.
trying to find them doing something, they just disappear into holes, and I can't jump them. I just tear off. I can't jump them, can't find them. I don't know. It's just crazy. A lot of times, if that's the case, like I said, I'm just like, man, I'm just looking for like late rut activity. Some little pocket of
Yep.
deer that's coming in late.
Hush.
Because
Sorry, not y'all, the dog. She's
you
over
know,
here whining.
it's just.
Wearing me out this whole time. I'm tired of it.
All right, man. Last question, real quick. what what is your dream scenario like when if you're going to get on a big buck? Um, it sounds like you get real excited about like the early season, getting one on a rub line, knowing he's going to drop down in there. But any time of season, like what's your dream setup? Like where you catch a buck doing something. If I catch him doing that, I'm going to get him. Like what's that setup look like?
Oh, just like I said, if I catch them working that rub line, or like I said, that giant that I seen early season, catch him slipping by making that call that he made that doe, and that caught me off guard. But just calling back at him, and them responding like he did. He and I know he was well over 70 yards away from when I heard him, and for him to respond like he did, a deer of his size, that was just special. Even though I didn't get to get a shot at that deer and ever see him again, but just to see that deer in person like that, um, the biggest deer I've ever seen on public land that from around here, that's just special. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
anytime I can see something like that, even if I don't get to take the animal, that's what it's about for me. That's my, I guess, my whole setup there. Like if I'd got a shot at that deer, then yeah, great. Um, but just seeing stuff like that, seeing them respond, and hopefully getting to take a shot at one like that from what I've done or learned over the years. That's what I love about it and what it means to me. I guess you can say.
No, that's and you. I had two last questions, and that was either one or I was going to ask you like, what drives you at this point? Like after all the success you've had, after all these years you've been out there. I mean, what keeps you going? What keeps you working as hard as you do?
I don't know, man. I guess it's to be honest, it's just the excitement of it. I don't think that'll ever go away for me. I hear a lot of old timers always telling me, "Oh, I'm not that mad at them no more," and all that good mess. But
Mm-hmm.
I've never been mad at them. I just truly enjoy it. But I have a 9-year-old son and an 11-year-old girl, and I got her on her first deer when she was 7, and now it's his turn. Um, I guess just teaching them because I think that whitetail or hunting in general is a dying thing with kids nowadays. I don't think they're not teaching their kids how to survive. I guess you can say. I mean, I know you can go to any store and buy your food, um, but you never know. You may depend on that. I mean, like going back to the very beginning, my dad depended on that to feed me and my family growing up. You know, now I'm fortunate enough not now I don't have to do that. Like I said, I can go buy anything, any kind of food to feed my family, but um, I it's just a passion, I guess. I just truly love it. It's the only thing that I truly enjoy. And all that meat, the deer that I take, it feeds my family. Some of my wife's family, my extended family. I mean, I give a lot of that meat away to provide to my families, I guess you can say. And people just don't understand that. I guess I don't know. Um, but no, that's what it is for me. I just
I know what it is.
really love it.
It's that 180-inch deer that you didn't kill.
Yeah, him too. He made me lose 20 pounds. I'm still mad about that.
That's what gets me keeping me going every time. Is
Oh yeah, hundred
it's
percent.
just the possibilities of just getting something that just life changing, you know.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. It's always at the back of my mind too. Yeah, of course I want to shoot. This giant
yeah,
deer, but I've been lucky and I've had great success and killed some pretty nice bucks. Um, but I don't know. I just like I tell my wife, I can't explain. It's just something that I truly enjoy doing. I mean, it's the never knowing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you go back,
we're
like I
all
said,
a little special.
you go back to hunting like the private land I hunt with feeder and all that. That's not it. That doesn't do it for me. I guess you can say I like going to the unknown. I don't know what's going to come around that corner. I don't know what I'm going to call in. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that's I guess the excitement part of it too.
And I'm glad you said that because I had something I wanted to say earlier, and we were talking about hunters kind of trying to discredit each other, etc. And you
Hmm.
know, I mean, and not that I wear the public land hunter as a badge of pride, because I hunt private properties. I've got places I hunt at feeders, etc.
Yeah.
And nothing is as hard as coming out here in Texas, specifically and targeting big deer, mature deer, and really learning how to dial in their home and not rely on a feeder and trail camera at that feeder. You're really having to be in tune with nature, be a true woodsman, have some true woodsmanship, knowing plants, knowing trails, knowing sign,
Yeah.
and for somebody like you who basically goes and reads sign, you do it a lot similar to the way that those guys up north do it, and but you do it here in East Texas and then all over the place in Texas, like you said, and I think that's what's cool. And you're successful all the way around. And anybody in this chat has done it. I can tell you that. And most of everybody that we bring on here has done it. And it's not the same. I can't have the same conversation with somebody that's sitting over the feeder because they think we're crazy for going in out there getting shot at by everybody because that's the impression they got. And we think they're
Yeah.
crazy because, I don't think they're crazy. It's just, and I don't have any judgment because I hunt that way.
Yeah.
We just know that when we hear them in the back of our minds, and we've all said this, that, yeah, man, I got you, but I chase these things where they live. So,
Yeah.
but I'm a little bit different. I'm a little bit more different as far as passion. I'm mad at them, and I probably will never not stop being mad at them.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. I'll give it hell until I can't anymore. I guess you can say.
Yeah.
yes, sir.
And I think what you've done, man, is pretty awesome. It's testament to your consistency and like how hard you work at it. Because I've been a lot of places the last several years, more and more across the southeast, and like up in the Midwest too, and East Texas is just severely like undercredited for guys who can figure it out. Man, I'm telling you. And I've
Yeah.
I've hunted other
And
places in the South, and it's not that it's not hard. It's all hard, but you can look around the corner and find guys who are got it figured out, and for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but it's so hard to do and to have the mindset to do it on what a lot of people would consider like a less quality herd. There's big ones out there like you've seen.
oh yeah.
They
Yep.
do exist, but to want to go out there and do it, for the most, just to hunt the best, you know, quality buck, mature buck that what our areas have to offer. It just takes a mental mindset and a grind, and the guys who figure out a way to get good at it, stay consistent over a long time, they don't exist, man. You're a pretty rare individual, I would say, because we've looked at a lot of places, and it's hard to find, especially somebody going back as long as you've been at it. You know, a couple of years, or a year, 1 year run here or there is one thing, but man, to do it for so long and to stay with it and to love it that much is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
my
It's,
take on
I'm
it.
excited to hear more stories. I know this ain't gonna be the only time we get you on. I hope it's hard to get you on, but when we get you on,
it's a little struggle, but we made it happen anyway. So.
Yeah.
yes, sir. And I appreciate your time once again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We took
Thank
up a
y'all
lot.
for having me.
Yeah, we took up a lot of your time, so don't be mad at us.
Oh, no.
'Cause-
I got kiddos in a kitchen window outside looking at me like zombies right now.
yeah, I hear you. I understand. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, man. So I just want to tell everybody thank you for coming in and checking out the podcast. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and go watch the video version, because you get to see us, you get to see Jimmy, you get to see the smiles when you tell the stories, and you just can't beat it. So if you haven't done so, just subscribe to the channel, and also subscribe to the podcast if that's your thing. You know, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the whole 9 yards. So if you got any more questions, drop a comment down below, and we'll relay that to Jimmy, and we'll see if we can get any further answers on. But we have to cut it off, because we'll end up going forever. So we'll do it again, man. But like I said,
Sure.
Yep. Thanks again, and thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you back here on the next episode.
Thank y'all.
Well, that was fun.
That was a
Sorry,
long one, man. I
That was
know.
too easy to talk forever.
I know. But hey, thank y'all for having me on.
Recording